Welcome to The Project. Tonight, the detectives behind the investigation and Erin Patterson's official police interview. The latest in the Leongatha mushroom murder trial.
Detective Sergeant Luke Farrell, who a week after the deadly lunch searched Erin Patterson's home with the accused mushroom murderer present. Photos from the search including a manual for the sunbeam dehydrator, a set of kitchen scales, and a recipe tin eats cookbook. And the page for beef Wellington.
That page was spattered with cooking liquids.
The jury was also shown photos of Erin's plates. On the kitchen bench, 3 dirty plates, 2 dark, 1 white. Inside the dishwasher, 4 small plates with a red top and dark bottom, plus 1 large one. Inside a drawer, 4 dark coloured plates and 1 multicoloured with rainbow stripes. The court previously heard that while Erin's guests were served individual portions of beef Wellington on large grey plates, Erin ate hers off a small tan-coloured one. When Erin was told the search warrant was in connection with the death of 2 people who died, she replied.
She was told at least Heather Wilkinson had died, and she expressed surprise.
Erin's police interview played for the first time. Asked why her estranged husband's family was invited for lunch.
Because I've got no other family. I love them a lot. They're good, decent people.
As the interview was played, Erin watched on and wept. Erin has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
We're live from the land of the Kulin Nations. Erin Pearson is the Age's crime and justice reporter. She was in the Morwell Court again today. She's with us again tonight. Erin, in Erin Patterson's police interview, she talks about her relationship with her in-laws. What more did we hear about that?
That's right. During this police interview, Erin Patterson was told that police had also spoken to her ex-partner, Simon Patterson, and questions had been raised about why the lunch guests had been invited over. Erin Patterson's response during that police interview was they'd been really good to her and she loved them. And she said no matter what had gone on or was going on between her and her estranged partner, Simon Patterson, she wanted to maintain a relationship with her in-laws.
Erin also became emotional in court today. Was that in relation to something in particular?
Yeah, as the police interview was being played, it was about 21 minutes of police interview that was played. There was parts weren't played to the jury and the judge mentioned that some of those had been cut out. But while her record of interview was being played, particularly in the early questioning about the relationship that she had with her in-laws, she got quite teary in the back of the court. She had glasses on at this stage and she was watching that record of interview being beamed into the courtroom. And then the questioning changed a little bit to other topics and she was asked if she'd ever foraged for mushrooms or purchased or owned a dehydrator. And to both of those questions, she answered no.
Well, the prosecution's final witness today was lead investigator Detective Senior Constable Stephen Eppingstall. What did he have to add?
Detective Eppingstall was explaining to the jury how he first became involved in the investigation. An alert was sent to their office around the 1st of August 2023. Within a couple of days, they learnt of the critical illness of some of those lunch guests, and he said that they then took over the investigation. It was a complex case, and they're the types of cases that they would take on. What happened then, when they found out that a number of the lunch guests had died in the hours and days that followed, he got one of his colleagues to start searching through Erin Patterson's records. Phone records, banking records and alike. And the jury were told this is when police very early on in the investigation found out about that transaction that saw a dehydrator allegedly dumped at the local tip. And then over the next few days, they continued their investigations, eventually interviewing Erin Patterson on the 5th of August 2023.
I think we're into, week 5 or something now, Erin, and at the beginning, the buzz was just incredible. There were international media descending on the place. Has any of that died down? Does it still feel like you're at the centre of the universe every day, or is it starting to sort of feel a bit normal?
Well, we're at day 20 now, I believe, and we've had almost somewhere in the vicinity of 50 different witnesses give evidence from a range of different health and medical professionals and then onto the police, really starting today. And there's still barely any seats left in the courtroom. You've got the media taking up at least half a dozen every day, and then quite a number of members of the public that are also there. That line to get in the courtroom today was as long as I've seen it through this entire trial. So the public interest still appears to be pretty high.
All right, well, job to do, Erin. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Let's get some other news now. And the weather gods are dishing it up all over Australia at the moment as floodwaters recede in parts of New South Wales. The snowy mountains have had a real taste of winter. Sydney's been blanketed by a dense dust cloud sent east from the South Australian outback by strong northwesterly winds. And those same wild winds also left a trail of damage across Adelaide, bringing down trees and power lines.
And the whole walls shook. And it sounded like, if it wasn't a tornado, then a train coming through.
Because the whole place shook. It was a bit like an earthquake, actually.
Wow. Norway's Princess Ingrid Alexandra has packed her tiaras away and is headed down under to study at the University of Sydney. 21-year-old, who's second in line to the Norwegian throne, will be doing an arts degree and will live on campus. She's not the first European royal to do tertiary studies in Australia. Count Nikolai, nephew to King Frederick and Queen Mary of Denmark, did a semester at UTS.
Not bad. As someone with an arts degree, I just want to say to the princess, it is so important to learn how to do a beer bong. So I can't. You are going to be fine here in Australia.
We need to start writing the Hallmark movie now.
Oh, just wait.
Yes, but
We need a love story.
Who's the prince going to be?
Well,
which North Shore Sydney boy
this eastern
pushed
suburbs
out the
private
house by
school
one of the
boy.
Real Housewives? You will meet her. You will woo her.
Did you ever, when you were growing up, I mean, when we were growing up, at least myself, it was always, you grew up on princess movies, becoming a queen, those kind of things, those fairy tales. Did you ever have the same ambitions to become a prince or a king?
No, but I always thought we were secretly rich growing up and, my parents were just hiding it to keep me humble. And then at 18, they'd be like, we're actually... And then I turned 18 and we were way poorer than I thought, it turned out. So, yeah, that's the closest I've got.
Opposite of coming to America. That's
Exactly. Which is important lesson to learn.
It is an important lesson to learn.
Guys, speaking of important lessons, today Victorian Liberals were being quizzed about whether they'd bail out colleague John Pasuto's legal debts, and some, let me tell you, they were masters of deflection, and others did impressions of Georgie Tunney when I tell her that New South Wales will beat Queensland.
Whoa!
Hello, should the party be saving John Pasuto?
I tell you what, we would need those significant stamp duty cuts for young home buyers.
Should the party be helping John Pasuto? Oh, sorry, I didn't actually hear what you said. Should the party be saving John Pasuto?
That was me. That's actually me.
I'm like, New South Wales by 16, you're like,
Wow.
We're off to a break and see you soon.
Welcome back to Watching the Project.
New research from Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital has revealed parents need to be better educated about flu vaccinations. More than a third of parents are hesitant about having their children vaccinated against the flu. And alarmingly, 36% of parents didn't know the flu can even make healthy children seriously ill.
Wow.
People often think, the flu's just the flu, it's not that serious, or they might think it really only affects older people, but in fact children under 5 are one of the leading groups of severe illness from flu.
And another 6 years in Parliament for Jackie Lambie after she finally retained one of Tasmania's 6 Senate seats. She'd been up against Pauline Hanson's daughter Lee, who was running on the One Nation ticket. In the end, Hanson didn't secure enough votes to join her mum in Canberra. If she had, though, it would have been the first time a mother and daughter had sat in Parliament together.
Sounds like the base of a sitcom, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Well, the joyous day for football fans has ended in anger and grief, with a terrifying act leaving the UK city of Liverpool reeling. It was supposed to be a celebration of Liverpool Football Club's Premier League win. Instead, this victory parade became a nightmare as a car drove into the crowd at speed, injuring 47 people, 2 of them seriously.
Literally ripped through everyone. Just drove through the lot.
The driver's motives are unclear, but police say the incident isn't being treated as terrorism. A 53-year-old local man remains in custody. The Kremlin claims the US president is showing signs of emotional overload after he called Putin absolutely crazy for launching the largest aerial attack yet on Ukraine.
Something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
Putin pushed back through his spokesman, who thanked Trump for helping to start ceasefire negotiations, but added Putin is doing what must be done for Russia's security. And French President Emmanuel Macron claims he and his wife Brigitte were just play fighting after footage emerged of her pushing him away as they disembarked their plane in Vietnam. Obscured from view, she shoved his face with both hands. He looked shocked, and that's when he suddenly realised he was on camera. He later denied it was a domestic dispute.
Oh my goodness. If your eyeballs could get RSI from watching something repeatedly, mine would have it from watching.
How many times have you zoomed in and you're just like there for the replay?
Zoomed in on everyone, on
What's
the flight attendants.
Because I think this is just normal French people stuff. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, I think
it's like when we go into a restaurant and you speak English.
And
that's what happens
exactly.
to you.
So what's I don't know, what else could it be?
Well, it's fascinating. It's not as they tried to pretend that they were play fighting. Like, that's really weird. Like, play fighting stops after the first 6 months of dating.
Yeah.
Doesn't
What do you want him to say?
With that.
What would you want him to say?
Well, we've all been in that situation.
She hits me.
Yeah, right, okay.
We've all been in situations with your significant other where you're about to go into an event or you're about to go into someone's house and you've just had the biggest blow up ever and you're like...
No.
Is that right, Tony?
Are you trying to eye gouge Nils?
Angel you're engaged to, he's the sweetest man alive.
Well...
But getting physical is very different.
It is.
Yeah, she's more at home on Jetstar than that private jet. That would be fine.
Are we still talking about Tony? What's going on?
Yeah, Tony as well, yeah.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Now, this is a classic love story of girl meets boy. Well, girl scrolls and DMs boy who happens to live over 13,000 kilometres away in the middle of the Amazon.
What?
The seeds of this love story were planted 18 months earlier online.
I came across his Instagram page when I was scrolling late one night. I was super surprised to find somebody that was the same generation as me, but living an entirely different world to what we live here in Australia. And so I decided to message him out of curiosity.
Entonces, cuando Jordan me escribió, es una chica guapa. Y le escribí también.
But this would be a very long-distance relationship. Jordan lives in the Sunshine Coast, thousands of kilometres away from Pitaruk in Ecuador.
I live jungle and Amazon rainforest. I live my family.
We were using Google Translate back and forth to message each other to connect. It worked. It worked. He lives such an entirely different lifestyle to me, and has a completely different way of life, a different culture, a different language. So we were really curious and asking each other about how we live. We started showing each other our houses, our families, and what's inside our houses as well.
In March last year, Jordan visited Pitaruk and his family in Ecuador.
When we first met, we couldn't speak the same language. I only knew sí and gracias, and that was it. What didn't I fall for? I think just the way that he carries himself, especially when he's at home in the rainforest, and the knowledge that he has about his home.
Yo por primera vez vi a Jordan, dije, qué chica muy guapa. Y después yo no estaba nervioso, nada.
I remember I was sitting by the waterfall thinking, how am I going to tell people this story? Because it literally feels like a movie.
When she returned to Australia, Jordan began learning Spanish so the pair could better communicate, but it wouldn't be easy.
We have time zones that are 15 hours apart. Not only that, sometimes there can be challenges with electricity and Wi-Fi. I guess having that trust and that faith and that connection with each other is what always brings us back.
It's that connection which brought Pitaruk to Australia to see Jordan's world.
First time flying, fue incredible. Yeah, very incredible. Surprise.
Surprise?
Surprise, sorprendido. Yeah, yo cuando llegué por primera vez, ella me llevó al mar.
Jordan has spent the last few weeks introducing her boyfriend to all things Australia.
I like the puff. The beer is delicious. I love it, beer. Mi comida favorita aquí, comer aquí. ¿Te acuerdas que fuimos con...
Chinese food.
Pero yo respeto mucho la cultura aquí también. Ajá, yo respeto mucho la cultura, cómo vive aquí la gente. Es bonito. Es bonito.
So, what does the future hold for this cross-continental couple?
Hopefully bring him back for an Australian Christmas and New Year's. And then long term, we're just happy wherever we can be together. When you find something so reciprocal, it doesn't matter how far away you are or what time difference you have, what language you speak, what culture you come from. It's worth the fight every day.
Oh, wow. Speaking of Hallmark movies, hello.
Yeah. The other one just got turfed.
Yeah.
No, but when we saw that he was eating the fish and chips and drinking the beer, we all went, no. Because we know which way that tussle's going to end up.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to be the rainforest.
Stay strong, brother. You can resist the pub.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
You don't have to.
You
go
can
to the
do
pub.
it.
Do not go into the pokey room, you know. It's not learn from me. Speaking of, understanding people and languages, you know what's a hard word to pronounce on the fly, especially when you're in a rush? Yeah. Cryptologic. Don't you think? That word again? Cryptologic. There it is, cryptologic. Now, but in his wisdom, Donald Trump chose to give it a crack. Let's see how it goes.
As a linguist, translator, and cryptologic technician.
Yeah, okay. I see why he appointed JD Vance. You know, that's an easy one to say.
It's so funny when people stuff up words like that, isn't it?
Well, I think it is. That's why
It's interesting because I thought you might have run that today, and so in response, I put this together.
No one was deserving of sympathy. G'day. Hey, g'day is what I meant to say. Now, watch me effortlessly change subjects here. Local infrastructure. Okay, all right, look.
Dude, do you want more? Because we got a heap.
Yeah, all right.
That's
look, I know it's a traditional greeting, but I'll use it as a goodbye. G'day.
Indeed. You've got to own it. That's the way to do it. Coming up, as ADHD rates soar for kids alongside fresh moves to make diagnosis easier, are doctors overdoing it? We'll explore. We're back watching The Project.
Now to more of today's top stories. And Anthony Albanese has pledged more federal financial support to those affected by the record-breaking floods in New South Wales. The clean-up is well underway. Already 800 properties have been deemed uninhabitable. While visiting dairy farmers on the mid-north coast today, the PM saw for himself just how bad things are for flood-affected communities.
The devastation that we have witnessed firsthand has been only exceeded by the extraordinary resilience that these Australians are showing.
Erin Patterson has wept in court as the jury was played her police interview, recorded on the day that 2 of her 4 lunch guests died. They heard her tell detectives she had never foraged for mushrooms, and she also denied ever owning a dehydrator. They were both lies admitted by her defence team. Erin has also told investigators she invited her in-laws to lunch because she loved them and wanted them to remain in her children's lives. She's denied deliberately poisoning her in-laws and has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Now, many people have welcomed sweeping new reforms from the New South Wales government that will help people with treatment for ADHD, but some are sounding the alarm bells.
If your child finds it difficult to concentrate, tends to talk a lot and can't keep still, you've probably been told to consider an ADHD diagnosis.
So I sought out a diagnosis for my daughter because I could see some deficits in the way that she was approaching some learning tasks.
But for many, a diagnosis is out of reach, often taking months or years to see a specialist and in some cases costing thousands of dollars.
It's never a straightforward path. The wait times to get onto a paediatric wait list are extraordinary. So to go through the public health system, you're looking at 2 to 2.5 years. For us to go through a private paediatrician, we were told 2 years.
It's a problem the New South Wales government is addressing, with new reforms allowing general practitioners to diagnose ADHD and prescribe treatments.
The Australian way is you are able to access the healthcare treatment you need regardless of where you live or how much money you have. And this is about making sure that that is true for conditions like ADHD.
Hopefully it will remove some of those barriers and just make the process easier. I think that as long as we continue to have a rigorous process around the diagnosis, then really all we're doing is ensuring that kids get the right support that they need.
But critics fear it could create the perfect storm for over-prescribing.
The overdiagnosis problem or the misdiagnosis problem may get worse because obviously GPs aren't as specialised.
The number of Aussie kids prescribed ADHD medication at its highest point ever, rising more than 18% in the last financial year alone. In some areas, more than 1 in 10 kids are using medication to treat a mental health-related illness.
It needs to have safeguards built in, and I think the criteria themselves need to be looked at and tightened up. I think these days it's softened and we've got into an area where people might have a need for care for something and they may be struggling in life, but they're latching onto this label when it may not be the right fit for them.
So, are we over-prescribing a serious medication or finally addressing a long-standing health problem for our kids?
Professor Ian Hickie is the co-director of the University of Sydney's Brain and Mind Centre. Professor, should we be worried about an over-prescription of ADHD medication?
We should really worry about inappropriate prescribing. There's quite high figures, and the figures have been going up, particularly in teenagers in Australia. And so there's a real concern about the appropriateness. Who's getting medications? Are they the kids in most need? And are they having the desired effect on educational and behavioural outcomes?
Why do you think those figures are so high?
More people are seeking out help. There are more clinics available, certainly more commercial clinics available than there were, so more people are seeking help. But as we've seen in New South Wales just overnight, the New South Wales Premier wants to expand that further through GP prescribing, at least in New South Wales, because of those who miss out. So it's a combination of awareness and availability, but we've got to really worry about the appropriateness in most situations.
Sorry, so can we be clear? Do you think there is inappropriate diagnosis going on or prescription? Sorry.
I do think in some areas that's the case. We've got the situation of over-prescribing where there's been inadequate assessment, really taking into account a kid's full history. So we have commercial clinics, I think, which are not doing a great job, but in other areas we have a lack of access to appropriate assessment.
Sorry, I just want to decode some of the language there. So when you talk about commercial operations doing this, are you suggesting that in some places we're getting over-prescription because people are making money out of it, and if they weren't, or if that profit motive weren't there, they perhaps wouldn't be prescribing?
Exactly. So we've seen very simple commercial operations set up, fill in a questionnaire, come in, pay a large fee, expect to get a script. That's not good practice. In other areas, kids can't get appropriate assessment, medical assessment, psychiatric assessment, neuropsychological assessment, to make sure they are the kids who would benefit most from prescriptions of these types of medicines.
OK, so it's worth pointing out that we are talking about really quite serious medication here. The side effects, this is just what I've gleaned from reading, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but they can include reduced appetite, sleep problems, mood changes, increased blood pressure, even tics or psychosis in rare cases. The New South Wales government, in saying GPs will prescribe this sort of medication, they'll be trained up. How much additional training do you need to be able to prescribe that sort of thing to this sort of condition?
Well, you need to have the training, but perhaps more importantly, you need to participate then in practice accreditation and tracking, seeing whether what you're doing is appropriate, working with other specialists, with psychologists, with developmental paediatricians, working in teams to actually make sure the assessment's good, but then the tracking of the outcomes, you get the desired result. So it's not just a simple matter of doing a training course and saying, off you go, without monitoring the practice that really follows.
OK, but if that's what you need, you're talking about ongoing work within teams. Is it realistic to expect GPs to be able to do that? Or are you saying now that this really should be the preserve of specialists and we should perhaps be paying attention to whether or not those specialists are doing a good job?
Exactly. So what we need are specialist teams in our public sector, through our state hospitals and other groups, rather than saying, look, the GPs can follow up cases and may do a lot of the prescribing after specialist assessment, but the diagnosis and treatment in the first place needs to be done in really professional and careful ways.
So does that mean the New South Wales government's program, as currently stated, has got it wrong?
Well, I think what's being said and what they're saying is not exactly the same thing. So in the first instance, they're talking about follow-up prescriptions, which have been hard and been expensive. The second bit about who makes the diagnosis in the first place and who starts treatment, I think, needs to be much more carefully thought through.
So, Professor, what are the alternatives to medication for those with ADHD?
Well, that's an important question. There are all sorts of other psychological approaches in enhanced education, focusing on sleep-wake cycles, trying to attend to those problems, and what other developmental problems a kid may have, what other learning difficulties, rather than simply thinking everything is ADHD when a kid has a problem with attention or problems with impulsiveness or overactivity in a classroom setting. So proper psychological care is an important part of the aspect, independent of whether you take medication or not.
Professor Hickie, thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you.
Well, since his return to the presidency, Donald Trump has been fighting DEI in all its forms, a movement he believes is a scourge on American life. So what exactly is it?
We have the hottest country in the world, and the whole world is talking about it.
On the weekend, Donald Trump spoke to graduates of West Point Military Academy, covering an ironically diverse range of topics.
He won 168 golf tournaments. The great, late Alphonse Capone. Would you say a trophy wife? I guess we can say a trophy wife.
But it was this part that made the headlines.
We've liberated our troops from divisive and demeaning political trainings. There will be no more critical race theory or transgender for everybody forced onto our brave men and women in uniform, or on anybody else for that matter in this country.
Yes, the most imminent war these military graduates may have to worry about is the one their commander-in-chief is waging against three little letters.
DEI, DEI, DEI.
If you're wondering what DEI is, I'll let political reporter Rachel Scott explain in what may have been the moment Donald also learnt what it is.
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
Give me a definition
the
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
a very direct
question.
Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir.
To many, diversity, equity, inclusion programs are all about addressing historical disadvantages of people based on their race, religion or gender. To Trump and his supporters, it's a dangerous social experiment, forced mandatory quotas that elevate the unqualified in the name of
the woke crap.
Which is why, within hours of returning to the White House, Donald Trump signed an order revoking DEI practices across the entire federal government.
Many of his base supporters feel displaced, attacked, demeaned by what they see as an over-reverence of Black culture. And so this is a political move, in my view, by President Trump, but it's very, very deep with his audience.
Government agencies were told to put DEI staffers on paid leave, take down DEI-themed web pages and cancel DEI-related training. But MAGA World had one particular arm of the government firmly in its sights.
Any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit has got to go.
The DEI purge was comprehensive. The Department of Defence flagged thousands of photos and posts for deletion, ranging from black military pilots to Women's History Month to the World War II plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Why that last one? It was called Enola Gay.
That's how lazy they were with this. They just Control-F'd for gay-sounding keywords and deleted anything that showed up.
Companies afraid of losing their government contracts or even just afraid of getting on Trump's bad side wasted no time. McDonald's, Walmart and Facebook's parent company Meta among those that quickly stripped away diversity targets.
Other companies have programs around gender and diversity commitments because of lawsuits that they lost. So they can't just abandon them because Donald Trump would say, get rid of all of this, and we're going to have to see how that goes.
But similar moves in the education sector have been less successful. An online portal for members of the public to report DEI practices was spammed with Simpsons jokes and movie quotes. And federal courts have also stepped in.
The judge has temporarily blocked the president's push to end diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in our public schools.
But this is unlikely to thwart Trump's efforts. Some suggest the modern political war is no longer left versus right, but woke versus unwoke. And with DEI policies the manifestation of that battle, the fight seems unlikely to stop anytime soon.
Oh, wow.
A lot going on.
Okay, when the pendulum swings back, it swings back harder.
Yeah.
Too hard, obviously, but is it just an overreaction that will then right itself?
Well, I don't know if I
know.
The tricky thing is, we're talking about Donald Trump, and that's always hard, because he does this thing where he takes something that might actually be a mainstream or fairly widely held concern by people of good faith.
Yeah, which is that there's been an overreach on behalf of DEI.
And here we need to be careful because there's affirmative action and quotas and things like that, which companies might have for all sorts of reasons.
Right.
And then there's DEI as this thing that grew out of it that sometimes takes a form that even people of good faith just found a bit over the top and exhausting and felt like they were being shamed, right? And it could be like being trained on doing all these online modules and whatever. And actually there's research to show that some of those modules actually make people's attitudes worse rather than better. There's all this sort of stuff that not just you, that entered the corporate world that sort of... But then the thing is, what Donald Trump does is he goes, all right, I'm going to take this thing, I'm going to run with it. And so he's turned it into, not only are we not going to have compulsory diversity, but I'm just going to sack anyone who's black, even if they're qualified, and I'm going to put in this white guy who's not qualified and see it's all fine. And then you get just bizarre outcomes by this.
And surely they can't be sustainable, but...
Well, it's interesting what the military wants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the military is like the NBA. Where's the diversity, equity, inclusion there?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We've got to take a break.
3 years to go.
We'll be right back.
Back up to the project.
Now, Miss Universe Australia national finalist Sheridan Mortlock is changing the pageant game one hand-me-down at a time. The 25-year-old student wearing only second-hand fashion during a recent competition trip to Vietnam. With help from stylist Joe Gambale, Sheridan challenging the idea that second-hand clothing is frumpy or outdated, and the sustainable and savvy Sheridan Mortlock is here with us now. Welcome, Sheridan.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Sheridan, I hope you don't mind me asking, but respectfully, Miss Universe is a really glamorous event. Are you worried that this decision may cost you the ultimate prize?
Well, as someone that's always worn secondhand and sustainable, I was nearly drawn into wanting to purchase brand new and on-trend things when joining this competition, because as you said, it is quite a glamorous competition, but I have to remember that fashion that's been created and it's already around, it's already so many sustainable and amazing things to access and to utilise. So why wouldn't I continue my message and be true to who I am and my values and continue that into the Miss Universe program?
And also now, Sheridan, because the judges do look for the Miss Universes to have some sort of ideology and some ideological edge. Your sustainability one may actually give you a slight advantage over the store-bought contestants.
Well, that would be a very positive bonus, that's for sure.
And your Taylor Swift vibes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Is it okay to notice?
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we could just tell because Georgie's freaking out. And so that was kind of the key.
She wasn't at the AMA, she's here.
Yeah, indeed.
I'll just put some bangs on and a red lip and we'll call it a day.
Yeah. Are you doing Taylor's version of Reputation? Sorry, I've gone too far.
I'm waiting for it.
What is the key, though, to finding good second-hand clothes?
Look, you've just got to put in the time and just really know where to look. There's so many amazing second-hand and vintage stores opening all around Australia at the moment. I feel like as a nation, we're really starting to realise just how amazing second-hand can be. So just put in the time instead of scrolling, online on a website for new things for hours on end. Get out in there in the community and have a look through the racks. And it's also a great way to meet people and connect. And I feel like in a time where communities and third spaces aren't as common, it's a really great opportunity to sort of kill two birds with one stone.
Oh. To some, the Miss Universe pageants may feel that like they don't have relevance in 2025. What made you want to enter?
That's a great question, and I feel for me that any sort of program like this, it's really about how you use it. So the Miss Universe Australia program, it really is about more self-development and building confidence and gaining experiences in the industry and being able to network with so many amazing young women. And then if you are lucky enough to be titled as the next Miss Universe Australia, it's really about what you can do with the platform. The team provides you with all of the tools, but it's up to you how you use those tools. So for me, that's personally why I wanted to join. I'm ready to use those tools.
Such a great answer.
Good at answering the question,
I mean,
Sam. It's an important part of
You get my vote. I'm not on the panel, but
I've been
if
practicing.
I was. Now, a question I want to ask this. Often people say they want world peace when they're in this competition. Are you going to buck the trend?
Fabulous.
Oh, wait, so that is your... I wanted to know if you were going to say anything else.
Well, I definitely don't want to be on camera saying I don't want that. But no, I definitely feel that for me, my advocacy and my platform that I'd love to be able to utilise is definitely sustainability. I love our nation, and as much as I love dressing up pretty, I want our planet to stay pretty as well, and we've got so much beautiful endemic flora and fauna that I'd love to protect. And with the rise of the Irwins again in popularity, I feel like it's only a matter of time,
Oh,
she's a winner.
You're a winner. Sheridan, thank you very much for joining us. We wish you well.
Thanks so much for having me.
You okay? Everything's okay?
I'm all right.
Good. Got you in the project. Excellent.
Guys, it is that magical time of the year where hundreds of loose units make the pilgrimage to Gloucestershire, England to chase, that's right, a 3.6 kilo wheel of cheese down a shockingly steep hill. Stop your scrolling, because this is Cheese Rollin'. Cooper's Hill is 180 metres tall, and when you roll a wheel of cheese down it, it can reach speeds of 110 kilometres per hour. Hey, here's a good idea. Let's chase it. Thousands of bloodthirsty spectators once again gathered for the annual Cooper's Hill Cheese Roll, where the brave and boneheaded ragdoll themselves to be the first to cross the finish line. Winners get the cheese.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, look, there's injuries, but organisers ensure lots of tarps are handy for all the competitors they euthanise. Among this year's winners, some Kiwi fella.
Oh, it feels great.
First-time racer Ava.
I hit my head and then I was like, oh, here we go.
And a German YouTuber. Ooh.
I just shut off my brain and then went for it. This is mine.
But in the end, we're all winners. Or something. I don't know. I'm going to eat cheese. Yeah, clap these brave people. I mean, why they do it? I mean, for the cheese, I guess. But
is that an in memoriam at the end?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. They lost a lot this year.
If it was in black and white, it would be reminiscent of a battlefield.
Yeah.
Those scenes.
But don't you think that every year when we do this story, it's always so shocking just how crazy it is and how brutal it is? And look at, I mean, the dislocations.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm sure a lot of those people are lactose intolerant.
Well,
they shouldn't be chasing cheese.
I think one of the women who won said in an interview afterwards, I don't like cheese.
But I love it.
So strange.
That and wife carrying. No, or is it husband?
Yeah, the wife carrying.
The wife carrying. I love that.
They should combine the two. Throw the cheese down, pop the wife on the back.
Go get it. Amazing.
And throw in a little bit of Macron.
Let's move on to Ice-T, shall we? He's a Grammy-winning musician, esteemed voice actor, long-time star of the hit series Law and Order SVU. This you know, but most recently, he's taken his acting chops to the Gold Coast, where he's starring alongside Chuck Norris, Vanilla Ice, and of course Sophie Monk in the brand new horror comedy Zombie Plane. Wow. He joins us now from the set. Would you please welcome Ice-T? Yeah. Wonderful to have you on the show, Mr. T. And congratulations on this film. I have to say, we watched a little bit of, I don't know what it was, frankly, because it looked bonkers. Did you know what you were signing up for?
Not really. I mean, I got the offer. They called me. They said, would you like to come down to Australia, do a zombie movie? I'm like, nah, I'm good. No. And then my daughter was like, come on, Daddy, zombies. We love zombie movies. And Coco was like, a zombie movie? You're going to turn down a zombie movie? So I'm on a plane. Next thing I know, I'm on my way down under. So here I am.
Great. Well, you are correct. It's a zombie film. It's called Zombie Plane. And clearly the kids want you to interact with the zombies. But as I understand it, everything you're doing is on a yacht.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you may not even encounter zombies. Do you feel ripped off?
Nah, I don't get to encounter the zombies, but I'm the guy that can end it all. I'm the general that they call, about this plane. And I'm on my yacht on vacation with my wife when I get this call about the zombies from Chuck Norris. And I make them let them know that they better handle these zombies in the plane or I'm going to blow that plane right out of the sky.
Yeah. It sounds like the best movie of all time, doesn't it? Chuck Norris is calling Ice-T on a yacht. It's like, come on.
And he decides to blow up a plane. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
So, Ice-T, you've obviously got a handle on what's happening now within the film, but do you often sign on for projects that you don't know much about?
I've been doing Law and Order so long that it's just fun to actually do some films for now. So we're on hiatus right now, getting ready to start the 27th season. But no, usually I want to know a lot about what the movie is and things of that nature. But when your 9-year-old daughter says, "Daddy, do the zombie movie," I did a movie back in the day called Leprechaun in the Hood, and my son said, "Daddy, the leprechaun's cool, you gotta do it." So there's lots of other reasons you pick roles, others sometimes than, But who doesn't love zombie movies? Come on, this is a chance in a lifetime.
Now, Vanilla Ice is also playing the film's lead. Now, have you kind of turned up just to remind everyone, who the real Iceman is?
Nah, me and Vanilla Ice have a long history. When he came out, he was one of the biggest selling rappers of all time. And, Vanilla Ice had came out and told everybody he was from the street. And we said, "What street? Sesame Street." Back in the day, we were like, "Are you serious?" But since then, he's made his way and everybody respects him and loves him. So it's an honor to be in a movie with Vanilla Ice now. At this time in our career, it's a great thing.
What is it with rappers and Ice? Like, what there's T, Cube, Vanilla. Why?
Everybody wants to be cool. You know what I'm saying? So being Ice is the epitome of cool. So, I'm Ice-T, and I'm not Ice-T to drink. I'm Ice capital T. T, my name was, starts with a T. My real name is Tracy. So, I was considered cool T. So I was named after Iceberg Slim. So my friends call me Iceberg. They call me Berg. So, yeah.
Ice, would you say anyone that has to ask the question, why do people go for Ice to be cool, is not cool?
Yeah, I would say that, that's kind of a question you get from a real live square.
I'm dying.
This is what happens when your children aren't your agents. Well,
Yeah, apparently.
Slippery slope.
This is one of my favourite things about you that I did not know. You're the OG.
Okay.
Did you popularise or coin the term OG, original gangster?
Yes, but OG is a term that was used in LA gang culture for the first generation of a particular set or a gang. So the people that really started that particular gang or whatever are set, that we call them, the different divisions of the gangs, would be considered the OGs. Also in California lingo, OG stands for original. So the original Levi's 501 jeans, the original K-Swiss sneakers, the original Chuck Taylors, that's OG too. Nice. So I did an album called Original Gangster, and that kind of put it into the vernacular of everybody. Now, I seen a TV show called OG Teen Moms. I'm like, really? Wow. So I missed that one. I should have trademarked.
You should get a producer credit on that.
I mean, wow, what a legacy. That is amazing. One of the things I absolutely love that you do, Ice, is that these ice cold facts that you share on social media. So we have words of wisdom like this. Ice cold fact, Diamond. Slow motion is better than no motion. Low profile is better than no profile.
Whoa.
I presume there is a mic drop thereafter. Before we let you go, could you give us an ice cold fact?
Oh, please.
Well, if it seems like you're going in circles, it's probably because you're cutting corners.
He's got too many corners. He's a square.
Very good. Very good. No corners.
Right, he's square.
I'm not cutting any corners, clearly. That's what we've learned. We finally got to the truth.
Wow.
We are out of time, I'm afraid. We could keep going forever. Would you please thank the one and only Ice-T? Well done. Zombie Plane will be released in Aussie cinemas later this year.
So good.
Square, square, square,
Yeah, you
square.
can go home and cry, Waleed.
What? I'm proud of it.
He's going to be fine. That's it for tonight. Would you please thank Kate? Definitely not a square. We'll see you tomorrow, 6:30.
Square.